Okay, we're going to have a little discussion about Myers-Briggs type indicator. It's a personality test, and lots of people swear by it. And one of you guys in the comments asked me, "What is your MBTI?" So I had to look it up, and I did the test to figure out which personality I'm in. And there are 16 of them, 16 different personalities, and people swear by it. You know, they do the test and they say, wow, it's very, very accurate. And I will lie to you if I said the results that I got are not accurate for the moment. They are relatively accurate, and I'll tell you the results that I got from doing the test, and then I'm going to go ahead and tell you why it is largely irrelevant in my opinion. Okay, so just hang in there for the after comments. Okay, so I did the test, and I've been aware of this. Like, I remember my sister told me to take this test like years ago, and at the time I got a different result here, so which I have it right here as well. I'm going to read both of them to you, and I'm going to use that to demonstrate my point and why I think they're, for the most part, irrelevant. Okay, I know. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. Yeah, it's my opinion though, right? Just remember that. So, I did the test and I got the result advocate, okay, which is INFJ. INFJ. Yeah, so advocate. And we've got a Lao Tzu type figure there. You see, with the big, it even looks like Lao Tzu. So that kind of made me happy. I felt special, right? I got an ego boost. Like, yeah, look at you. You know, you're like a Lao Tzu type figure, right? So let's read it out. The advocate personality type is very rare, making up less than 1% of the population, but they nonetheless leave their mark on the world. Advocates have an inborn sense of idealism and morality, but what sets them apart is that they are not idle dreamers. These individuals are capable of taking concrete steps to realize their goals and make a lasting positive impact. People with this personality type tend to see helping others as their purpose in life. Advocates can often be found engaging in rescue efforts and doing charity work. However, the real passion is to get to the heart of the issue so that people need not be rescued at all. Sounds pretty accurate so far, right? Right? Advocates indeed share unique combinations of traits, though soft spoken. Maybe that's not very accurate, but I would say the rest of it seems pretty accurate. They have very strong opinions and will fight tirelessly for an idea they believe in. They are decisive and strong willed, but will rarely use that energy for personal gain. Advocates will act within creativity, imagination, conviction, and sensitivity, not to create an advantage, but to create balance. Egalitarianism and karma are very attractive ideas to advocate personalities. These types tend to believe that nothing would help the world so much as using love and compassion to soften the hearts of tyrants. Advocates find it easy to make connections with others. They have a talent for warm, sensitive language, speaking in human terms rather than with pure logic and facts. It makes sense that their friends and colleagues will come to think of them as quite extroverted personality types. However, they would all do well to remember that advocates need time alone to decompress and recharge, and not to become too alarmed when they suddenly withdraw. Advocates take great care of others' feelings and they expect the favor to be returned. Sometimes that means giving them the space they need for a few days. Really, though it is most important for people with the advocate personality type to remember to take care of themselves, the passion of their conviction is perfectly capable of carrying them past their breaking point. If their zeal gets out of hand, they can find themselves exhausted, unhealthy, and stressed. To advocates, the world is a place full of inequality, but it doesn't have to be. No other personality type is better suited to create a movement to right or wrong, no matter how big or small. Advocates just need to remember that while they're busy taking care of themselves, taking care of the world, they need to take care of themselves. So anyway, it goes on and on. But I mean, you know, you've got advocates you may know: Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa. Who else? Let's see. Morgan Freeman, Jon Snow, Aragorn. Yes, Lord of the Rings. It's like actually an idol of mine. Anyway, so if you watch my videos and you kind of get to know me a little bit, you know this is pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate. Now, let's keep going here. So a few years ago, I took this test and I got a different result. My sister told me to take it. And at the time, I placed more value on these things. So I was actually more interested in it from that perspective. But also, I think I got a comment saying, you know, you're this type of personality. And so I'm gonna read it to you, and you're gonna see that some of it is also accurate and applies even now. So it's the commander personality, ENTJ. So let's read it out. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. It's commander. Commanders are natural born leaders. People with this personality type embody the gifts of charisma and confidence and project authority in a way that draws crowds together behind a common goal. Again, that's pretty accurate. It's a different personality type, but pretty accurate, right? However, commanders are also characterized by an often ruthless level of rationality, using their drive, determination, and sharp minds to achieve whatever end they've set for themselves. Not as accurate now, very accurate a few years ago. This is keep that in mind. A few years ago, very accurate. I was all about the will, all about the rationality, and all about determination to get shit done, which I'm not so much into that anymore. Perhaps it is best that they make up only 3% of the population, lest they overwhelm the more timid and sensitive personality types that make up much of the rest of the world. But we have commanders to thank for many of the business and institutions we take for granted every day. See, back in those days, I had like a business. I was like the business type persona, the, you know, business, go-getter, goal-setter. And anyone who followed me on the fitness channel, you know that this was a much more accurate description 5 years ago. Okay? So, happiness lies in the joy of achievement. If there is anything commanders love, it's a good challenge, big or small. And they firmly believe that given enough time and resources, they can achieve any goal. This quality makes people with the commander personality type brilliant entrepreneurs, and their ability to think strategically and hold a long-term focus while executing each step of their plans with determination and precision make them powerful business leaders. So you catch the drift here. You see what type of personality this is. And examples of people like that: Gordon Ramsay, Steve Jobs, Franklin Roosevelt, Jim Carrey, Malcolm X, Tony Soprano. Anyway, goes on and on. But you get it. Now look, this was very accurate, down to the T, this description of commander a few years ago. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. Some of it now still accurate. It still applies to the present moment, but definitely what applies more in this moment is the advocate personality. Okay, so then hold on, Saeed. If one type of personality was more accurate to describe your manifestation, your expression, your outward expression as a human 4 years ago, and now there's a different type of personality that applies to the moment, to the current expression of the Tao, of the mind, body, spirit complex, then does it make sense to identify with one type of personality over another and say this is me? And my answer is no. My answer is no. Now, why are these things accurate? Actually, it's not so mystical. When you do the test, you answer a certain way, and then it just matches you with the personality that you match mostly with. And when you do read it, you're like, wow, these guys are magicians, it's accurate. It's like, no, they have 16 different templates, and whatever you answer right now, it's obviously going to give you the personality that most resembles it. So for example, one of the questions was, do you like to be in large crowds? And I said, no, hell no. Well, that was my answer now. 4 years ago was the other way around. It was like, yes, I love being in large crowds. I love it. So, which would give me a different personality type. So wait. Are you telling me that I am a ball of energy, a mind, body, spirit complex that is always changing? And the answer is yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Because the mind, body, not the spirit, the mind, body complex, which is the mind is the program, the mental program, and the body is the physical program, right? The biological program, are always changing. When you hear a new idea, that's installing a new program in your mind complex. That is changing you in one way or another. So of course, from stage to stage, from moment to moment in life, you're going to have different preferences. Your outward expression will be different, and therefore you will express it differently. That just makes sense. Now it's fun to play around with these things. You know, I'm having fun with it here. I mean, I had fun with the whole thing. Let's do the testing. Let's read it. I read several different personality types. Yeah, it's fun, but I think that's what it is. It's fun. It's a toy to play around with, but nothing to cling on to, attach to, and take too seriously, because that's problematic. Why is that problematic? Because that further sucks you into the illusion that you're a finite being. What is the nature of true self, deepest self, true self? True self is infinite, formless, and shapeless. The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. So, in our attempt, because we're such finite beings attached to our finite identities, so because of those attachments, we want to freeze ourselves and other manifestations into one particular form, because that's just, we're so caught in the illusion of finitude, we're so attached to our identity as a human being, as a finite being that has a beginning and an end, that we go on constantly cursing ourselves by trying to freeze ourselves in the moment, by freezing the moment and saying, this is it, this is how it is, one form, and doing the same thing, trying to curse other people the same way. So we say, well, I am the I mean, I could now say, well, you know what, advocate is pretty cool. They got, you know, they're making me look like Lao Tzu here. They're telling me you're special. You know, it's less than 1%. So let me, you know what, from now on, I am INFJ. You know, that's my identity. I'm an INFJ. I am an advocate, man. That's my role here. Okay, well, let me tell you something. What if in 5 years from now I say, well, screw you guys, I'm going on an adventure, and I take on the explorer personality type, you see, which I mean, I'll tell you, there was 1 year, I'm trying to remember when, I think 2016 or something, 2016, yeah, 2016, right, I took a break from, I was doing the YouTube fitness, I took a complete break from that, took a break of everything, and I was just the explorer for like a year. I was doing like 4 or 5 grams of mushrooms like once a month, right? Like once a month I had the ritual, and it wasn't just that, like I would just go out and explore inwards but also outwards. I'd go to these woodlands and I'd just walk around for hours, you know, not too philosophical, not too, no, I don't want to achieve none of this advocate stuff. I didn't really have a grandiose vision for the world or anything like. It was just, I was an explorer for a year. Now, if I restrict myself into one type of personality, into one type of template, then I'm cursing myself, because I'm not allowing myself as infinity wanting to experience as many possible manifestations of finitude. I'm restricting myself here. What if we do this off-grid thing, and then I say, well, we're in the middle of the Amazon jungles and I feel like an adventurer again, because I got an adventurer side, an explorer side, a big one, you see. So what if like 3-4 years from now, we're settled, the community is up and running, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna take a 6 months break here, of everything. We're right by the Amazon, and I'm just gonna go for like 6 months. So they call it through hiking. I'm just gonna hike through the Amazon jungle. Oh, but man, I'm an advocate. I gotta be doing my mission here. I gotta be, expanding this community. I gotta be making more videos. I'm an advocate. I mean, I read it. I did the test, right? It told me I'm an advocate. It made me feel so special, telling me I'm less than 1%. It even showed me a guy that looks like Lao Tzu, so now I feel all like mystical, this important figure, right? Nelson Mandela, all that. So I can't be doing that. I can't be going out to the Amazon and exploring and just saying, screw you guys, I'm going for a hike. Kind of like Bilbo Baggins, just takes off the Shire, goes for an adventure, you see? But then even if Bilbo Baggins was attached to his identity as an explorer, then he wouldn't have come back and written a book. Because there is also one type of personality where you're like very introverted and you like to sit in your room and you're like reading and writing, blah, blah. Like there is, So if Bilbo Baggins was identified with his explorer side, which he fully lived with the dwarfs and everything, then he wouldn't have come back and written his book. Here and Back Again or something by Bilbo Baggins. So, well, in the same way, if I'm identified with this identity, now if I stayed identified with my identity as the commander, which was any of you guys who followed me through I started the fitness channel back in 2015 or 14, that I was very much a commander type. That I was like, I'd get in front of the camera and I'd shout and I'm like, motivation and blah, 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 right? Well, had I stayed identified with that, I wouldn't have now made the transition into the more of the advocate role, which I currently reside in at the moment. It's more of, that's my role. So these things, when you read them, you'll be like, damn, these guys are magicians. That's who I am. It's like, that's who you are now, in this moment, in this current suit, in this current act, because this is an act. And so, like Leonardo DiCaprio plays the role of the romantic saver in Titanic. And he has to abide by that until the shooting is finished. I had to abide by the commander role until the shooting was finished. And then I took on the explorer role for a little while. And then I'm taking on now the advocate role. So then Leonardo DiCaprio takes on another role in another movie, and he has to abide by that for a certain period of time. So different roles that we take on, and sometimes we may take on a role for most of our life. For most of your life, you may be an advocate. That you may spend out of, say you live 100 years, maybe 70 of those you're an advocate, or 70 of those you're an explorer, or something. But then, there comes a time where like, all right, I think I'm going to change the role a little bit here. And then you change it, you see? So these things, in my opinion, they're not to be taken seriously because they distract you ultimately from your true nature. And all work ultimately leads to self-realization. And self-realization is actually very simple. Theoretically, it's very simple. You are absolute beauty, absolute truth, absolute love, absolute bliss, absolute peace. Your peace. You are peaceful awareness. That's who you truly are. Theoretically, it's very simple. You're formless and shapeless. You cannot be pinpointed. You cannot be grasped. So the minute you identify with something, you've done yourself, your true self, a great disfavor, if that's a word, and restricted yourself into one form, as opposed to saying, okay, I'm playing this form right now, but I allow myself to play anything at any point, at any time, because I am formless and shapeless, and I created this whole thing so that I could experience myself in an unlimited ways, okay? The other thing is like astrology. It's the same thing, right? Astrology, it's similar, meaning you could read your horoscope and you could really look into this and be like, man, astrology is very accurate. Well, let me remind you of something. again, it could be accurate and it could be true for the moment, but let me remind you of something. There's a beautiful saying by Vivekananda. He says, the purpose of human life is to rise above the laws of nature. So while you read, you get into astrology and you understand it and you're like, whoa, it's so accurate. It's like, yeah, it's so accurate because most people are not conscious enough to become their own, the creators of their own life. And because they're not conscious enough, they just abide by the laws of nature. So yes, they abide by the stars. The stars affect them. They abide by the planets affect them. And so you're like, whoa, astrology is super accurate. It's like, of course it's super accurate, because for the most part, the masses are unconscious. And so they're just, whatever forces are applying on them, it's just gonna drive them. Now, I am born in June 23rd, so my horoscope is Cancer. So is my brother, and so is a woman that I dated not too long ago. She's also Cancer, right? And well, I'll tell you something. In the way all these three different people that I know, myself, my brother, and a woman, quite different expressions, quite different manifestations. How do you explain that? Because different degrees of understanding, different degrees of awareness leads to different, and there's other forces acting. So like me and my brother, it's quite a different expression. It's quite a different expression of the Tao, but we're the same horoscope. It's like, how do you explain that? How do you explain that? Because there's other forces acting. There's different degrees of being conscious. Again, Vivekananda, who was a brilliant mystic, says the purpose of human life is to rise above the laws of nature. And this is how monks, very adept monks and meditators, are able to levitate and do the supernatural, because they've risen above that superficial identity, which is, I'm a physical body and I'm a mind, I'm a personality, I'm a storyline. Because a personality is a storyline. I mean, look, we're telling ourselves stories here. I am this, and that. You see? But they rise above it. And so when they rise above it, they're no longer bound by the laws of gravity. Whereas animals can't do that. That's why humans are a step above evolution in evolution than animals. So animals are totally bound by these laws and by astrology and by everything. And most humans are too. And its personality traits, etc. Because you read a personality trait, you say, that's me. And then you go on the rest of your life identifying with it. The rest of your life, you're identified with that thing. And you just restrict yourself so much, because in a different stage of life, you may find yourself wanting to go out to the woods and explore. Become the explorer. Screw you guys. What is all this philosophy bullshit anyway? No, I don't want to change the world. No, I don't want to be the commander and achieve. I just want to go and explore in the woods. But then you're like, oh, but wait, the story, which is the personality, that's what it is, that you tell yourself is, well, I'm an advocate, so I gotta stay here and I gotta, lead the people, or whatever. Or I'm the commander, I gotta stay here and motivate, right? So because of the story you tell yourself, because you haven't grasped your true self, your true essence, so you're not able to rise above it. And so you go on the rest of your life not acknowledging the flow of things, the flow of the harmony of the way of the Tao, that you are indeed of the mind-body complex is of nature. So it is always changing, just like the weather is always changing. And man, we had the ice age a few thousand years ago, and now the planet is warming up, and it's like you're the same. Because the mind-body complex is what I'm referring to here. It's the same thing. It's always changing, At a certain point, you're like, man, I just want to write a book. At some point, you're like, I want to change the world here. I want to build something. Like right now, I want to do this off-grid community. It's the only thing I think about. No, I don't want to go explore in nature and stuff. Not right now. Not right now. Not at the moment. Not at the moment. I don't want to take psychedelics and go inwards and go talk to aliens and blah, 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 and see go to these other realms. Not right now. Right now, I'm not the explorer archetype right now. It doesn't suit the moment. But I can guarantee you that at some point in the future, that phase will come, as it came to me before. As it came to me before, and many other phases. Maybe when I am, 80, 90 years old, I might want to just kick back and write a book or something. You know, not even that's it. Like I retire from being the commander or the advocate, and I'll be like, okay, I just want to write a book here. I just want to write a book. That's it. Write a book and light a fire. You know, kind of live like Carl Jung when he lived the later part of his life. Right? He just he retired to the woods. He built himself a nice house, and he just lived very simply. I think he was writing. I think he was writing. You know, so you gotta allow yourself as infinity to explore and express yourself in all these different manifestations. So be aware of the pitfalls of identifying with one particular form. Be very aware of that, because it's restricting your true essence, your true self. It's the same thing with astrology. You give yourself one identity. You say that's me. Right, and you say, but man, look, like it's very accurate stuff. I did this astrology reading with my mom and with my sister and with my friends, and wow, and it's so accurate. It's like, of course, because most people are unconscious. They're not able to rise above the laws of nature, so they're totally bound by all the forces that are acting upon them. And very, 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 very few individuals, human individuals, in this dimension at the moment are identified with the formless and the shapeless, which is ultimately peace, a peaceful awareness. Peaceful awareness. Just peace, contentment, fulfillment, presence. That's the true essence. And then you observe. I am observing the advocate. I'm observing my infinity, my true essence, the infinity. I'm observing the peace that I am, the love that I am, the beauty that I am. I'm observing it playing at the moment the advocate role. I'm not denying it. That's why I wanted to read it out to you and show you that it's pretty accurate for the moment. So I'm observing it. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, let's see how, man, yeah, it's groovy right now. I really want to, it feels so right to play the advocate role right now. It feels perfect. I mean, there's nothing I want to do right now than play advocate. So I'm not like denying these things exist. I'm not denying that they're accurate, that there's a certain level of accuracy, but I'm watching. I'm just observing. I'm not identifying with the role. I'm delighting in the role. I'm pretty delighted in this role, but I'm not attached to it. And time will come, not may come, will come, where I'm gonna want to play a different role, or several roles simultaneously. How about that? I mean, they tell you here Aragon was an advocate, right? No, Aragon played different parts simultaneously. He was the king. He was the lover. He was the magician. He could heal with his hands and do, shamanic stuff, right? And I think actually that's what I'd like to do, is I would like to play different parts simultaneously. You see, I don't want to like say, well, Saeed, right now you're an advocate, or you're this and that. Like, no. Why can't I be all of these roles at the same time? Why do we have to label things? The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. More of this stuff is just Why can't we just look and say, wow, here is a tree. Just appreciate the expression. Here's a human being, and that's the way they express. Do we have to label it? Do we really have to label it and say, well, you're this type and this type and that type? That's separation consciousness, by the way. Dissecting reality and cutting it with knife. You're cutting it, essentially. Why can't you just be like, well, that's how it's just an expression, and just appreciate it as it is? Why do we have to even label it? Why do we have to say advocate, commander, explorer, poet, introvert, extrovert? I mean, that's a trap. The introvert, extrovert thing is a big trap, because I swear to you, 2 hours ago, I could not have been any more introverted. So introverted that I went into my hut, closed the door, put on some binaural beats, and for like an hour, just there. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to be with anyone. And like an hour later, magically, I turned into this super extroverted person. Right now, like, I feel very extroverted. It's an hour. Just within an hour, that changed. So that's a trap too. All these things are traps, ultimately, folks. They're ultimately traps. They're fun to play around with. Hella fun. But that's just what it is. It's just a little toy that you play around with. You are peace, and you are observing awareness, observing the changes, observing the different things that are happening to you, delighting in them, watching them, observing them, delighting in them, acknowledging them, not taking them seriously, not clinging onto them, not attaching to them, to all these different identities. I'm a Cancer. I'm an Aquarius. Aquarius people do this, and that. Cancer people do this, and that. Oh, but I am an what is it? INFJ. I'm an advocate, or I am an ENTJ. I'm a commander. And it's you reap what you sow. So if you restrict yourself to one role, well, actors in Hollywood do not like to be typecast. They don't like it. The best of actors are usually people who play different roles. And often, actually, actors in Hollywood get a little pissed off. Actually, get really pissed off if they get typecast into one role. Because as a sincere actor, you want to play different roles as a sincere actor. And so our best actors and actresses are people who often take different roles. Robert De Niro takes so many different roles. A lot of you guys may think of Robert De Niro as the mobster, but no. Have you seen Cape Fear? He was a rapist. Took on the role of a rapist, right? And he did a magnificent job. In Analyze This, he was a mobster, but really funny. I mean, he done a bunch of comedy movies, and he's hilarious, right? He did the mobster movies, Taxi Driver. He was this psychopath that went on a killing spree. He was like a good guy that observed all the bullshit in the dirty streets of New York in the 70s, and it made him angry and frustrated and turned him into a psychopath. Al Pacino, same thing. You may think, well, Al Pacino is the Godfather, he's Scarface, he's Tony Montana, he's always some kind of a criminal. No. They haven't seen enough of Al Pacino's movies. The best actors and actresses are those who take on different roles. And no actor, a sincere one, wants to be typecast into one role. That's an actor's worst nightmare, by the way. That's an actor's worst nightmare. And that's consciousness' worst nightmare. That's infinity's worst nightmare, is to be restricted into one role. Okay? So that's my take on this. And thank you to all the Patreons for your consistent support for these rants that I do here, that I very much enjoy, that I do whenever I'm feeling extroverted. And an hour ago, like I said, I was feeling introverted. Now I felt extroverted. I want to talk to someone, so let me talk to you guys. Okay, so thank you so much. All the money via Patreon or PayPal, it goes towards the Off-Grid project that I've been talking about recently. All of it. All 100% of it. And so if you'd like to support, you could do so down below. In the description, you will see the links. Love you guys. Instagram, Saeed Mobayed. If you have anything you want to request, video requests, I think I've got a few here that I'm going to make either today or tomorrow. If you have video requests or you want to just talk about anything, add me on Instagram. Be happy to talk, chat. And until next time, may the force be with you.